What's up, fellow questers? Welcome back to another episode of I Don't Believe in Side Quests, where we love to remind you that every side quest is somebody else's main quest. I'm Gabe.
I'm Lauren.
And if you guys don't know, Nancy Drew's Season 4 premieres Wednesday, May 31st. We are so excited. So we decided to finish Season 1 of the podcast with our Nancy Drew Season 3 review. What we've all been waiting for. But before we get into that, let's do some catch up on what's been happening this week for us. Do you have anything?
One of my good Twitch friends is in town, so she and I are going to get to pal around, do a little Twitch meetup. So that's going to be fun. It'll be fun. We're going to do an escape room with another Nancy Drew Twitch streamer.
I love escape rooms. I think they're so fun. I don't know, not really a whole lot happened this week. We've kind of just been getting ready for, spring, summer, working on the yard some. It was teacher.
There's a fun theme.
Oh,
in your classroom.
Oh, yeah. The current one this week is Beach Day or Beach Week, which is, I actually think it's really fun. We brought in so many things for the dramatic play. They were all like...
There are sharks!
Oh my gosh. Yeah, today was Shark Day. I read a really fun... I don't know if you know who Fly Guy is. I didn't know who he was until I became in the preschool. But he, it was a Fly Guy book about sharks. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really interesting. There's actually a lot of stuff here about sharks that I didn't even know. And I love sharks. I love watching Shark Week on, is it Discovery Channel or whatever it is? Yeah, and we always have it running on the TV. So, yes. It was Teachers Appreciation Week this week too, so we got a ton of flowers.
Yes. A quick Her Interactive update we wanted to provide since we are recording this after Nancy Drew's birthday, which was a few days ago.
28th.
Yes, April 28th. So Her Interactive posted, they didn't make any announcements, so we'll start with that. But they posted a kind of behind the scenes of their voice actors recording lines. So again, I'm feeling very positive about where they are in the development of the game because they have designs of at least several locations. They have their voice actors and recording lines. And there is, so the voice actor for Nancy Drew, Brittany Cox.
Yes, there you go. I had the Cox and I was like, wait.
Yes, Brittany Cox is going to be returning as Nancy Drew. And then we have a new young male character who is going to be in it. And as soon as they posted this video showing the character design and showing the voice actors, everyone just started shipping Nancy and this new male character. And it's like, guys, do you really think the game is going to be like, yep, Nancy and Ned broke up. She's just going to move. Do we think this is going to be a breakup game?
Really? It better not be. I know so many of you don't like Nancy and Ned, but I would truly be so devastated. I'd be so devastated. I really want a game where Nancy and Ned go on a case and they can actually give Ned some character development. Because honestly, when Bess and George got the most character development is when they became actually more involved in the games and when you could sometimes play as them and stuff. And yes, we could kind of play as Ned in the Silent Spy or whatever. Or Alibi and Ashes. Yes, Alibi and Ashes. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't really an environment where you could have a whole lot of character growth. And so I feel like it's such a disservice to Ned because he really is kind of this same thing, bless his soul, through the whole series.
Well, he's kind of the Ken to her Barbie.
He is.
Right? You know, the Barbie movie slogan of she's Barbie or she's everything and he's Ken. that's kind of what they do with Nancy. Like Nancy is
Yeah.
traveling the world. She is off being an intern, or she's like in Egypt on a dig, and then Ned's just like being a normal 19-year-old who's just like, oh, I'm gonna go to college, or I'm gonna go do
Yeah,
this
he's in like
party,
a
or I'm gonna
frat,
go
isn't he?
hang out. Yeah.
To be fair, I think Ned's living his best life. Like, not that he doesn't miss Nancy and would love to have
Mm-hmm.
more time with her in person, but like, he's chilling. I feel like he's like, I'll live my normal life. I don't care. I'm
That's what
good.
Salem was all about, right?
Yeah.
All of the Ned interactions, Nancy was like, who is that?
Oh
Who is
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
talking to in the
Because he hears
background?
a
Why
girl,
is there a
the
girl
girl.
there who's just like, Ned, come on and play. Don't be talking to your long distance girlfriend who you never see. Like, I get it.
Well,
It feels like, that kind of trope of like the girl who's a year younger than her like athlete high school boyfriend, and then he goes off to college and she's still like finishing out her senior year of school or something, and she's like, we're going to stay together forever. He's going to come visit me every other weekend, and but he's off doing his own thing. Like he's in a different world.
wait, which one are we
Just
saying is Nancy and which one's Ned?
I'm saying Ned's off at college living his own thing, and Nancy's
Oh,
just
okay.
like, we're just
Okay.
going to stay in a relationship even though our entire lives circumstances have changed.
I will say we don't know how much time they do or don't spend prior to the college thing. They do and don't spend together because there's not a whole lot of, I feel like, actually confirmed timeline between all of the cases.
Right, because she doesn't age.
True.
She has not aged yet
Yeah.
because they want to keep her in her 16, 17. And yes, it's book timeline. So, like, she's just not going to, like, that's fine. You don't have to
It
think
doesn't really
logistically
bother
about
me.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't really bother me. But I still think there can be character growth, character development, and there
Mm-hmm.
I feel like is a lot. Ned needs it. Ned needs a game. Please, for the love of God. That's all I want. Because I love Ned.
Okay. All right. We're getting into it. Season 3. Yes. We did want to highlight that one thing we forgot to talk about season 2 was when we were talking about Mr. Hudson and when Nancy and Ryan were keeping him trapped up in the house, and then he was able to escape. They planned for him to escape so we could go find the tape. But they captured him and put him in a house after Celia died because Nancy was convinced that Mr. Hudson Everett had killed Celia because he found out she was keeping secrets from him. Mr. Hudson did not kill Celia. We never clarified that, but Mr. Hudson didn't kill Celia. It was the group The Way Back that she messed with when she was helping Nancy save Ace's brother. And she like got the list of names back. Anyway, so like earlier in the season.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Hudson had like messed with The Way Back. And so when Everett Hudson heard that she had done that, he was like, you don't mess with those guys. Those guys are big, like big deals. It's her fault she messed with them. Anyway, so yeah, so he did not kill Celia. So that was one of our questions at the end of the season was like, okay, well, The Way Back killed Nancy's grandma.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, let's continue on with this. Spoilers, we did not. Was there a single reference to The Way Back in season 3?
We'll get there. Yes, there was. There is. Don't worry. Okay. And then another thing I wanted to highlight was the guesses you made for season 3 was they figured out how to remove Odette, which is true. They did figure that out. You did Nancy is now officially a Hudson is going to be figuring out that it's complicated around the Empire, and Carson will help to figure out how to destroy it. So I feel like that didn't really happen in this season, but I think we're going to come back to that in the next season.
It wasn't official, but near the end when they were having the estate sale, it was just like, yeah, we're putting the finishing touches on Nancy, like,
It's Nancy Drew Investigations, but that's not really.
destroying. No, 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 no.
Oh,
But during the estate sale, like in episode 10 or something, Ryan makes a statement about how Carson and whatever are putting together the final documents or something for the
yeah,
true dissolution.
yeah.
So
They talk about the
they're
trial
in
and stuff.
the final. Well, but I don't think the trial is necessarily involved in that. Nancy's just, I think it's a legal situation because she's donating all the Hudson's wealth to their victims.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just like the last little bits of getting rid of the kind of the name pieces of the empire.
I guess. I don't know. I kind of feel like it was just touched on. I think it's going to be a more of a factor in season 4. So I don't know. That's up to you if you want to consider that right or not. And then you said, no idea what Temperance is going to do or why she's evil. I bet she starts a coven and Bess joins it. Okay, technically she didn't start a coven, but she definitely like ropes Bess in. So I'm saying that was right. Like you had the logistics of what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I knew Bess was going to be entranced by potential witchy business. And if there was witchiness around, she was going to be like, let me in.
I couldn't tell if I was crazy. Did she show any magical powers prior to season 3? Because it was all of a sudden like she's not a witch and then she is a witch. Unless
I don't think I don't think she showed powers, but I think she showed a lot of interest.
Yeah, like affinity, interest, yeah.
Yeah, like she was really
Okay.
interested in all of the things. And then when she found her ancestor Martha's book that had spells,
Oh, the
that's when
grimoire.
she tried that first spell to try to protect Ace that did
Right.
not go well.
Right.
And then Temperance was just like, "Come, my child."
Right. Okay. Okay. I
So
was
yeah,
a
I
little
don't think she did any magic beforehand.
okay. I want to hear your initial thoughts on the season, but first I want to say I was towards the end, or I think it was just when this episode came up. I was thinking about how in season 1 review I said Ned what did I say? That like Ned pushes people to process stuff faster than they can or need to. You know what I mean? Like he like I feel whatever. I said something along those lines. And then in season 2, you were like, wait, I see what you mean. And I was like, yeah. Okay. And then in this season, there's an episode where George's dad sent her a friend request and she basically ends up going and seeing him and having a conversation with him and all of that. And she didn't tell Nick she was going there. And she kind of was like, I'm running an errand. Oh, I'm at the dentist and all of that. But then when she's, done with it, she comes and tells him. And he gets so mad that she didn't tell him she was going. No, let me finish before you respond. So I don't think it's necessarily the same as what he was doing in season 1 and season 2. But I would have understood his anger if she had gone and told someone else but didn't tell him. But I feel like I can understand him getting hurt, but I feel like the anger he showed was just kind of like why? I mean, that's like a serious trauma for George, something that affected her whole life. And like she said, because she didn't have her dad, she sought out older men and, they used and abused her. And then she was known around the town as like whore George or something like that, she said. And like that was so sad and tragic. And like that's such a deep thing, and to not even know if do you really want to talk to your dad when you get to the door, are you going to go do it, what is going to happen, is it going to be everything you wanted, is it going to be everything you didn't want to happen. I can understand her not being ready to tell him and like just needing to do it herself and then come to him after, and I guess I wish he would have had more compassion for that. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
So, in a vacuum, yes. But I agree with him that it is a full pattern of behavior where anytime anything emotional or stressful or anything like that comes up, she just says, nope, gonna handle this alone, goodbye, and then will lie to him or omit the truth or have her friends lie to him and
Yeah,
cover
that I
things up
agree with.
like he's her dad. Like
Yeah.
Nancy does that to Carson all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, isolated incidents of like, and I don't think he would have reacted that way if she hadn't done it time after time after time after time. But
Yes. The
I
pattern
think it
part I
was
agreed
just
with.
so I just think the pattern part of that, of like him having a lot of stress going on in his life, and then also her like just doing this again, and
Yeah.
always about things that are really important to her. And as we're going to talk about later, like he wants to be very involved in like what's going on with her. And I'm not saying it's right, but like if there is that pattern of not telling people lying to you for things that I you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks to him and she's like, "Well, I didn't want to hear your opinion on it, or I didn't want you to try to talk me out of it." And I just think that could be part of the conversation of just like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do this thing." Um, like just have the conversation of, I'm not looking for your opinion, or I'm not looking for your input on this. I'm not looking for you to talk me out of this. I'm going to go do this. Can you support me?
I don't know if it's a counter argument, but here's my thought on that. Was something that I have encountered with my dad and a lot of my male friends, and I'm not saying all males
Mm.
are like this, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the male brain more often than not is kind of wired to be a problem solver. So when you go and tell them something, it's like they can't help it. Especially, oh, my dad does this to me all the time. I'm like, Dad, I just wanted you to listen to me. I don't need you to solve my problems. I just need you to listen
Mm-hmm.
and like smile and wave. Okay, be the penguin, the Madagascar penguin you're meant to be. And so I do think she could have talked to him about it. I'm not saying I agreed with her not doing it, but I could understand where she was coming from. And I agree that the pattern is an issue. I mean, that's a red flag. Like, is the pattern ever going to break? I will say I
Mm-hmm.
think she's grown a lot. So I feel like that's hopeful. Like she had progress. But I could see her mindset being like, he's just going to try and problem solve this for me, or he's not going to help, like he's gonna want to give his opinion or whatever. But yeah, I just had to bring that up.
Totally.
I think this might have been my favorite season so far. I really enjoyed, I think, every episode. I feel like there was an episode or two in like season 1 and season 2 where I was kind of, especially season 2, is that the one where we talked about there was all the fluff episodes, it felt like?
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
one-offs. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I loved like a little one-off mystery that they would go and solve, and
Right.
it would have a breadcrumb, and that was always really, really fun. This episode, or this season, was shorter by 5 episodes than previous
True.
seasons.
True.
So it was a little more of a condensed storyline.
That's true. I guess it's so hard because I feel like shows back in the day, right? You get the 20 plus episode seasons, right? And so it was like 2 seasons within a season. You had like the first half and then you had the second half. And it was
Hmm.
kind of okay when there was one-offs, but there was still enough progression that you weren't like, okay. So I enjoyed the one-offs in the second season, but I felt like there was a lot of them where they're like you said, breadcrumbs, but it wasn't enough progression. I feel like in this one we had a very firm path of like what was going to happen, and we followed it. And I think they could have added they could have added a couple more episodes, and we could have had like when we had the hidden staircase episode kind of that
Yeah.
played right. I loved that. I feel like they definitely could have added more of that. But it kind of, I feel like part of it is now I feel tainted by all these seasons that are like condensed 8 episodes. Like that's like the new thing.
Yeah.
And I want like
And
a go ahead.
I love the fluff episodes because you learn something about the characters.
That's true. That's when you get the
They
growth.
right. The writers and you get growth and you learn things about the characters that aren't imperative to the plot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the writers keep things so tight with all of these episodes. Like, I always take a lot of notes for the episodes, but truly every scene is typically like 2 minutes long. And
Yeah.
there's a quick little argument or discussion or dialogue between characters, or you watch a character do something, but it's quick. Like it happens and then you move on because there are so many intermoving plot points and pieces and characters you have to learn about and things you have to see. And having some quote unquote slower episodes just allows you to like relax and enjoy the mystery that they're finding out and get the ambiance of an asylum, or take them slowly as they kind of learn and you get to see how their minds work and you get to see how they interact. That only doing things that are driving the plot,
Mm-hmm.
you just miss out on some of that.
I think part of the problem was I think the previous seasons had a longer time frame of everything happening, kind of. Like I know season 2, the first few episodes happened in a super short time span because you had the Aglaica and all of that, and like that was kind of a short time span, but then the rest of it I think was longer. And this whole season I think took place in like 2 weeks, or maybe even less than that. And so it was 13 episodes. So honestly, like each episode was like a day. And I wonder if that's kind of why. I kind of feel like in season 4 they'll go back to having some fluff episodes. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's cuz Temperance was such an intense character, and like she was like
She was driving things.
She really was. So I wonder if that was part of it too. I don't know.
I mean, in season 1 we had 2 main murders that we were solving and then had to go off and like do kind of smaller mysteries that tied into the murders.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 we were finishing up like solving the Aglaica, just learning about mystical forces that we kind of started learning about in season 1. And then
season 2 was like all lore. It was all lore.
It was lore.
The
It was Nancy's
back.
history.
Yep, history. Yeah. The white ladies. The history of history of the town, history of the people. It was just like lore.
And then season 3 was, I don't know if we want to hit the summary right now, but we should do the summary.
Okay, yeah. Before we do that, we finally got to see the young Carson Ryan episode I was talking about. I love that episode so much. Do you know when they become young again? Yes, I love that episode so much. Watching it again, I was like, there's such little SHITs. And then the dream episode with the best mobile, and she's like, strap in. I got it. And they're like, you're like, take the wheel. And she's like, don't touch my wheel. I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any big likes or dislikes you want to?
Sure. There's an episode where there's a party and Bess accidentally gives everyone a potion or something that forces them to tell the truth. And so there's just a ton of truths that just get spilled out because for once the characters cannot sit around keeping secrets from each other. And it was so fun. It was so cathartic. It was a little horny because Nancy and this FBI
Agent
profiler get it on in a coat room after we've been watching tensions fly and spark between them all season. Bess or George and Ned tell each other how they really feel about their relationship. Yeah. Anyway, there were just a lot of it was just cathartic for me to be like, finally, now you have to be honest with each other. Thank God.
Yeah. Do you maybe want to talk about the beginning of the season?
Yeah, so the beginning of episode 1 for season 3 is Nancy has stepped into her role as the final person in the Hudson Empire. And she's taking on the leadership of this big town festival that they have every single year. And there's like a corn maze, and we're in September, and I think it's been a couple weeks since they brought her back, and she since the end of season 2. I think it's been a couple weeks since she announced she was a Hudson. She got rid of the demon. Everett got arrested, all of that stuff. And so they she's at this festival. She's being interviewed about it. They're asking her some questions, and she's just like, okay, I'm a Hudson. I'm getting rid of the Empire. Bye. And the whole gang is there having fun. Everyone's packing up because the festival hasn't started yet. It's going to start. Nancy goes into the cornfield, and there are some weird scarecrows that are kind of creepy and all about. And then she finds the body of somebody with their heart or their chest cavity frozen, and their heart has been pulled out.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the Nancy Drew, like just the intro music and whatever. But yeah, so that was the first 4 minutes of the season. And it was like, whoop, alrighty. Okay.
It was intense. It was intense. It was yeah, because that's what launches the whole season, is trying to figure out who is freezing and stealing hearts. What are Temperance's real intentions? Is she good? Is she bad? Because Bess initially thinks... Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't remember, Temperance is Nancy's great
original ancestor. Aunt? No, it's 7 generations between them.
Yeah, I know. But like she's an aunt or something. She's some relative from 7 generations ago. Do we know how she's related to Nancy? I think it's direct.
Nancy? It's direct. I think it's a direct line.
I have some follow-up questions on that, but okay. Yeah, so Nancy's ancestor from 7 generations ago, who Nancy accidentally revived with her blood at the end of last season. And so Temperance is just like back to her former glory. And she's a very powerful witch who had to wait for 7 generations before she could break a barrier to come back into town, and is now in town and starting up some mischief. And the gang is like, okay, this will be good. But yes, there's a lot of mistrust going on with her early on, and different characters over time either trust her more or distrust her. She's teaching Bess how to be a witch, and then Bess loses trust with her right at the same time Nancy is starting to be like, well, she's helped me out with some things, so maybe I'll like her more. And so there's a whole like, what is she planning? What is she trying to do? She's always 2 steps ahead of us. Oh my goodness. And so finding the Frozen Hearts killer is the more or less the first half of the season, and then we know enough about that we find a human who was working alongside of a magical creature, was kind of copycatting it. And so we kind of say, okay, so we just have this serial killer who's doing that. Great, that's a separate thing. But then we have a mystical creature who's being very particular and specific about the hearts he's freezing out, because the hearts he's freezing out contain pieces of the soul of Temperance's daughter, Charity. And Temperance wants all the pieces of the soul so she can form a key to open a seal to the underworld. And so now we're just trying to stop Temperance from doing that, as she, again, is all steps ahead of us. And so that is the second half of the season.
I guess maybe she wouldn't be a direct descendant, because I think we can assume Charity didn't have a baby.
That was my thinking. Because Charity was 18 when she died.
Right.
Which, sure, I guess means nothing, but I feel like
Temperance never talked about siblings.
Right.
So
that's why I think she was like an aunt or something. Like, she could be a relative. Like, if she had a brother.
Well, that's what I'm saying. She didn't talk about siblings, though. So she could have had them, but she never talked about them.
I think it's more likely she had a brother than she had a son that she didn't talk about.
Right. That's probably true.
It's not impossible that she had a son, but I feel like we would have spent more time being like, oh,
yeah,
well, her son could have, been involved in I don't know.
That's okay. So basically, the season culminates to the final episode, and the Drew crew has to come together to save Ace's life, because I don't know if you said this. I was listening, but I was trying to figure it out. Okay, because Ace contains the last piece of Charity's soul. So they fake a truce with Temperance while Ryan pursues a hatchet that can supposedly kill witches. And it turns out Temperance knew all along what they were probably going to do. And so she killed Copperhead for his 3 pieces of Charity. And then with the 4th piece in her...
Copperhead is the mystical creature that has been killing the other people to get their pieces of Charity's soul. And he also was Charity's husband and working with Charity to split her soul, so Temperance couldn't get at it.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought you said that with what you were talking about.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, so with all the pieces, she's able to finally complete her plan, which is it to... So I know she wants to open the veil, but it's also to revive Charity, right?
No.
Or is it just to use Charity to open the veil?
She turned Charity into a key who could open the veil.
That's right. So it is just essentially to use Charity to get...
It's just her soul.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so at the youth center, Ryan throws the hatchet at Temperance in kind of like a last-ditch effort. And Temperance is like, hi-ya! And it doesn't happen, but then Nancy is able to kill her with it, supposedly. And a shard from the magical hatchet gets dislodged inside of Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah. Lodged, I guess.
Lodged, yeah.
The main thing is that they kill Temperance in the first 10 minutes of the show, or of the episode.
Oh, so yeah,
it's the first 10 minutes of the episode that Nancy has beaten their final boss.
Mm-hmm.
And then 12 minutes in, Ryan dies from the hatchet being lodged in his neck, the magical hatchet. And then...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, part of it's because it's in there, but then because of the evacuation, there's also just nobody there to help, and like they don't know what to do, and they're freaking out, and he dies. Go ahead.
And they're evacuating because Temperance, as she's opening up or she's bypassing the veil or whatever, it's launching into this quote unquote new Genesis, which is basically bringing out a whole bunch of natural disasters, and it's really just like going to remake the world.
Right.
So she's ending the world as we know it.
That doesn't happen yet in the first part. In the first part, they start to get there, but she doesn't actually get to opening the veil. Nancy kills her before that can happen, but they had already been working on the evacuation in case they didn't succeed.
Oh, they got everyone evacuated. That's right. Yeah. They were successful in the evacuation.
Right, but nothing.
Even though they didn't need it. Okay. Sorry,
yes.
go ahead.
No, it's okay. And right, so Ryan dies. Nancy becomes a hermit for a month in her grief until finally she kind of goes and reconnects with everyone, and specifically reconnects with Ace. And they finally have their bliss, their moment. It's so beautiful. And then Ace freaking dies in her arms. And I remember the first time I watched it, the anguish I felt. I was so pissed off. I was so angry.
The entire time that they were in bed and just happy, I was like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was like, no, Nancy doesn't get to be happy. That's not how this, like, what on earth is going to be happening now that is going to ruin it?
Yeah. So the
she
other
does not
shoe
get to be happy.
The other shoe does drop, and it's Temperance. And she kind of walks into the moment and reveals that this has all been a dream due to a failsafe she had implanted in Nancy's head earlier in the season. I think it was in like the beginning of the season. Yeah. So Nancy.
So now we're halfway through the episode. So the first 10 minutes, we killed her. And then there was 20 minutes of Nancy in this dream world, just like living her best
10
life.
Minutes. 10 minutes of that.
10 minutes of her dream world. And now we're halfway through the episode. And we realize that all of this dreamland has happened like in a frozen time, split second. So Nancy has not killed Temperance yet. We are back. We are back to right where Nancy kills Temperance.
Yeah, she's a second away from killing Temperance. And unfortunately, well, okay, so Temperance doesn't plant the curse yet, but I did write Temperance planted a curse that would take Ace's life if Nancy ever acted on her feelings for him. So technically she hasn't placed it yet, but she will if Nancy kills her. You're right. So initially Nancy makes a gut reaction to not kill her because of her feelings for Ace, and they run away. And then Temperance is able to open the veil, and we see the huge tidal wave begin to flood the city. And that's where you see all of this and what the new Genesis is going to mean. And this causes, I would say, Nancy's more selfless nature to prevail. She sacrifices her future with Ace to save the city, and she goes and kills Temperance. So that was our big finale, final boss fight with Temperance. And before we get to the rest of what happens in that episode, I think the next important thing to talk about is in the first episode, Temperance is like, "Do you want to play a game?" And they're like, "No." And she pulls
Jigsaw.
Yeah, I know, right? And she pulls out these tarot cards and does a reading for all of them. So I'll initially say the whole thing, and it's, one of you will be the other's demise. One of you will forsake what is dearest to you. One of you will betray your true love. One of you will lose your heart. One of you will wreak havoc on this town, and one of you will fulfill your destiny, and that one will cause the rest to fall. So
everyone in the room was the main five: Nancy, George, Bess, Ned, Ace, and Ryan was there with them. We spent a lot of time with Ryan in this season.
Oh, he got such huge character development. I was so happy for him.
Everyone did. This was such a growth month for them. 2 weeks for them.
It was like 2 weeks.
It was wild.
But I felt like that was able to happen because the first two seasons were a bunch of buildup, and so then finally we could actually have these breakthroughs.
Oh yeah.
But okay, I'm a little. My initial thought to one of you will be others' demise is Nancy killing Temperance, but I guess that doesn't make sense because Temperance isn't one of them. Now that I think about it, so then my other thought was, is it because Ace becomes Nancy demise with the curse, and like she's also technically kind of his demise with the curse? Like, is that
Why would Ace be Nancy's demise? Sorry.
because of the curse? If Nancy ever does anything, Ace Ace would die,
So
or if,
Nancy would be Ace's demise.
yes, but it's also kind of vice versa because of the curse, Nancy's like sad and miserable. I mean, we see her crying at and having that whole conversation with Carson because like she's like, that's like my soulmate and all that. So it's kind of like a double edged sword. Like I feel like they're each other's demise. I don't know who. What did you think there was any other demises? I don't.
No, I agree. I think, well, when they were first talking the tarot cards,
Yeah,
the last one of you will fulfill your destiny and that one will cause the rest to fall.
I thought that was gonna be Nancy.
Well, that was the whole time. Like, Temperance, when she was talking to Nancy later, she referenced that. And when talking to her and being like, one of you will fulfill your destiny. So it was very much just like, ooh, that's going to be Nancy. And I was like, because you're telling me it's going to be Nancy, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I did not know. I kind of thought it would be Ryan.
Yeah. Okay. So for the demise, are we sticking with the Nancy?
I think
Ace?
it's Nancy killing Ace. Yeah.
Okay. One of you will forsake what is dearest to you. So I definitely think it's Nick, and I don't know if it's like a two-part thing, but like so he's gonna leave the youth center, and he's gonna go to Florida.
But he's not going to Florida.
No, he is
His
in a
parents
month.
came up.
Yeah, but he said he was staying for a month and then he was going to Florida. So he's
But
still.
he says, yeah.
And he did
Sell the ring.
right. So then my second part was Nick forsaking George, and that was with Nick sold the ring when George asked him to keep it, the wedding ring. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think forsake, yeah, the wedding, the engagement ring, the symbol of their love. Yeah. That's what I think. Because he sold it so that he could have the money to repair something around the youth center.
Oh, that's why they showed him doing that.
Because in the conversation, he was just like, yeah, I sold something that was really precious to me.
I don't really remember hearing that part. I just remember him talking about doing stuff, and like they were talking about filling in the concrete, and I was like super confused about that.
The concrete guy was
that
just like,
makes more sense. Okay,
the concrete guy was like, yeah, that's going to be pretty expensive, and he was just like, I don't know. He was asking about how Nick had the money to do it or whatever, and Nick was like, yeah, I came into some money. I sold something that was really important to me, and the guy was like, oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, so that was my interpretation of what was going on.
No, that makes sense because right. So another thing to say is in the last episode, at towards the end, we hear Nancy hearing. She finds the tarot cards again, and she's hearing Temperance's prophecy, prediction, reading, whatever you want to call it, and then as she reads a line, it flashes to a scene and. That's right. Like it flashes to the conversation between the concrete guy and Nick. So that makes sense. Yes, I agree. Okay, I was a little confused about that one because like we see the use. Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
Well, yeah, we don't know what he sold that was so precious to him until we're in the next scene.
Right, and so it's one of you will betray your true love, and it shows George is talking about becoming. A lawyer, like what you need to take, right? And she sees the store window, and it's the wedding ring. So I added in the or because Nick sold the ring when George asked him to keep it, but I was like, it can't be Nick. Like, I know it's George. George is the one who betrayed her true love. And I'm assuming it's because of the truth episode and like how that just was like a grenade thrown into their relationship. And
so during the truth telling party, George and Ned had it out. And George was like, you started dating me because you wanted to save me. Like, you love me, yes, but you wanted to save me. You want to save everyone around you so you don't have to focus on fixing yourself. And they were saying some hard truths to each other, but because of the truth thing, when she had to ask, did you start dating me to save me? He had to say yes. Like, the truth forced them both to be honest about what they were feeling and ask each other those hard questions. And it was like, I'm so sorry you guys have to do it this way. And I'm so sorry that means that you have to break up, because now, and Bess was, or George also, during that time, like, admitted that she's worried that
they're settling.
That they're settling for each other, and just that, like, they both have so much trauma that they both kind of like fell into each other to be each other's stability. And she's like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Her whole speech about being plants intertwined and fighting for sun and water was like, I cried. I was so proud of her. I felt like this is where she showed the most growth she's had. It was that what? Why'd you shake your head?
Oh, no, I fully agree. I was just being sad. Yeah. I was like,
that they needed to grow together before they intertwined. And I don't know if that necessarily means they had to break up. I think they definitely needed to not get married, but I don't think that needed to happen.
But I think they are going to get back in season 4. I think they're endgame.
Yeah.
And I think they both are going to, like, find some stability within themselves and within their own existences.
Yes, I agree.
And be willing to start again. I don't know if they're, like, going to get into a relationship or, like, at the end of season 4, be just, like, willing to try again.
Right.
That's what I want. I want them both to be, like, you know, rebuilding themselves and their relationship. And then at the end of season 4, be like, I want Ned or George. I want one of them to, like, ask the other one out again. And for it to just be kind of like,
I feel like Nick has to do it. And not because he's the guy, but I think in that point, he's the one who needs the most healing. So I feel like it has to be him who's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to go for it and see what happens. I will say what you're saying about when she said you were with me to save me or whatever, and he said yes. I feel like that was why I initially did not like their relationship in season 1. And if you'd asked me why, I don't think I could have specifically worded that. But then when she said it, I was like, yeah.
Her and Nancy.
Yeah. And I was like, is that why it gave me the ick? I don't know. It wasn't the ick, but I just I didn't like it. It bothered me.
Yeah, you want to save everyone else so you don't have to deal with your own problems.
Yeah.
And then Nick just walks away and she's like, stop running away from me like you do everything else. And I was like, but is she wrong? No. And then he turns around, he goes, "Did you ever love me?" And she goes, "Desperately, but you know that will never compare to the fantasy you built to deal with your own trauma." And I was like, I'm crying. I'm crying. And then immediately after that, we get whiplash because George is just like, eh. And then we get back to Nancy in a coat closet and the profiler comes in. They start making out. And then he just like goes down on her. And I was like, okay, all right, it's happening.
Like what made it so hard too was that it was so true. Like the things she said were so
totally
true, but they were just said in such a blunt way because you have to be honest. You know what I mean? There's no padding.
It's just raw feelings going on.
Yeah. Okay, one of you will lose your heart. I feel like we all thought when the initial reveal that Ace has a piece of charity was, oh, he's going to lose his heart physically because of the, the copperhead. But obviously it's Ace lost Nancy because of the curse and all of that bullshit. I think we can.
Yeah. In the second to last episode, Ace had finally told Nancy how he felt about her.
The next one is, I think we can say unanimously that it's Ace lost Nancy. So then the next one is, one of you will wreak havoc on this town. And that's obviously Bess when she placed the truth spell on everyone. But also prior to that. I knew that was going to
be Bess.
Yeah.
I knew Bess was going to be the one to wreak havoc on the town. I was like, one of your little mystical spells is going to do something.
Well, and she'd had misfires even before that one. But that was the one where it affected everyone. Yeah. So, that, yeah. I feel like this is also going to be Bess in season 4.
Mm-hmm.
For better or for worse. And then one of you will fulfill your destiny and that one will cause the rest to fall. Right. So it seemed like it was going to be Nancy, but I also agree with you where I was like, that can't be Nancy though, right? Like it's just it's a red herring. And I actually kind of thought Ryan too, based off of the other ones. I just felt like they didn't really fit with Ryan. So I was like, well, as a Hudson, I was thinking about the quote where Everett's like to him, I hope you outrun the family curse and avoid a gruesome demise. And I was like, well, that kind of feels like. Sorry. Go. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
The only other prophecy that I thought Ryan would be good for is the one of you will forsake what is dearest to you.
Oh, Nancy. Who
I thought Ryan was going to do something to like try to, make himself better or whatever that would end up making Nancy turn against him. Like early on or midway through the season, there's a rich friend of Ryan's who comes up and is just like, hey, like I want to donate to the community center and I want to do all these things. And Ryan wants like the status and it's just kind of like, we could make this work, but the whole rest of the gang is against it for good reasons. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if Ryan was going to try to like make the deal and like just try to do better things. But I could see Ryan making choices that was with good intentions, but that Nancy would find unforgivable because it hurt somebody she cared about.
Right.
So.
Right. So when she says this one in the final episode, they show the scene with Ryan with the couple who gave him the hatchet and them forcing him to take them to the historical society.
I was so suspicious of them.
Oh, well, yeah, they were really weird.
They're so weird.
I thought initially when they took him into the house, we weren't going to see Ryan. Like, goodbye, Ryan. See you next season.
I swear to God, I wrote down,
and I think they are the return of the road back. I think that was all put on hiatus. We had to take care of Temperance. Now Temperance is gone. And that's how the road back comes back, because I feel like once Temperance is gone, right, they don't have the white ladies in white to push them back and all that. Like, there's no one to be like, yeah, you can't be here. You know what I mean? So I think they're going to
Ooh,
come back
interesting.
for season 4, and I think that's the start of it. And I feel like they must be intertwined kind of with the family curse. Not that they like caused it, but that could be
Because they have the relics and
yeah.
they're just like into the relic stuff.
But the road back is like a whole thing. Like their governments, politics, um the technology. I don't remember if it's they want to get rid of technology or what it is, or I don't know. They have something against with technology and all of that. But mostly it was just like the road back obviously has to come back. So where else would it be? I feel like that's just the prime moment. You're getting us ready for season 4. And I mean the
This show
road
is
back is what
ridiculous.
would cause everyone to fall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
The
that
show is ridiculous
sorry.
because we always end on such a cliffhanger like this. There's no way for the show to be like, oh, 4 months later, 6 months later.
True.
So,
Yeah.
like, we're going to go straight into like later this evening.
Probably like a couple days from now or like the next day.
I don't think so.
Oh no, yeah,
I
it would
think
have
they're
to
going to
be the
show
mini
up.
Bess. Yeah.
Bess is going to be running the museum. Ryan and the couple are going to go show up, and the couple is going to go steal. I don't know what they're going to be up to, but I would be shocked if they didn't show us what the couple was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then so last season we talked about the update. Oh, okay. Are you what?
No, I was just laughing because I was just like, my notes say Ryan showed up to a nice couple's house asking about relics, and they're like, well, we sell crafts.
I like
And he
they
was
call
like,
them
yeah, you've
nice.
got a serious artifact for protection by your front door, so don't BS me. And then I was like, the great people or the couple would be great people to run the museum. Let them run it. Because I was like, they know all about artifacts. And then my next bullet point, that couple is going to kill him. So I went through quite a journey from like one little conversation of them.
I didn't like them from the very beginning. The lady, I feel like had such a sus look on her face, and
Mm.
I was like, I don't know about this one, Chief.
Because they compliment his car, and then
Yeah, I was like, that's such a weird thing to say to someone initially.
in Nancy's little dream sequence, where Ryan is dead, but his car went missing. Then Nancy found out about the car, and she and Ace are driving to that weird couple's house who had stolen uh, Ryan's car when they get in the car accident where Ace dies, and then we reveal it was all a dream. I'm a little shocked we haven't had and it was all a dream before on the Nancy Drew show. I feel like they're primed.
Yeah. Or like, did we ever have it where they ran into some gas or something that caused a bunch of hallucinations and weird stuff to happen? Did we really get that? Like, there kind of is
Yes.
with that one episode with Ace. I think he's locked in. There's 2 of them locked in. Never mind. Go ahead. What you were gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say I think season 1, maybe, where Nancy like passes like there's a gas and Nancy passes out and the whole gang is trying to like bring her back. I think it's in the asylum or something. Anyway.
Okay, updating romances and relationships. The first thing I had to put down was I love towards the end the developing relationship between George and Carson and them working on law together and Carson being like, you're really good. Maybe you should think about it. I loved that.
Yeah, there was this whole trial episode, and George is just like, oh, I can run off and get that witness statement for you. And as soon as she showed like that little bit of interest, I was like, she's going to go be a lawyer now. Okay.
Well,
Just saw it coming.
I feel like she talked about it in one of the previous seasons that as a kid she wanted to be a lawyer, which she brought up again in that episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yes. So that was a thing. Then there's also I feel like the strengthening bond between Carson and Ryan. Like they really become low-key like a gay dad couple. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, Nancy's always just like, ah, my dad's.
I know,
So
they're
good.
so I love it. Um
And
and
Nancy, when Ryan dies in her little dream thing,
oh my gosh.
and she's just crying and being like, Dad. She's never called Ryan Dad, but
Yeah.
he was dying and she called him Dad. And I was like, no, I can't do this.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes. So I love seeing that cultivate. I feel like they have really awesome chemistry together. Like the actors, like they
Yeah.
know how to it's just really good. It's a feels good. It's honestly a bromance. You know what I mean? I feel like they're a
Mm-hmm.
bromance. But we
I
do get
mean, the
rom
actor who
oh good.
plays Ryan, I mean, he's charismatic with everybody.
He is.
Anyone he interacts with, you're just like, I love this guy. This guy's great. He's a good time. I
Yeah.
think it's
Well,
his grown frat boy identity that you're like, ah, adorable.
but
You'll
you
let him get
also
away with
learn
anything.
it's genuine though. You know what I mean? I feel like in season 1 it seems very disingenuous and icky. But in season 2
Mm-hmm.
and season 3, you find out it really is genuine. Like he isn't just trying to be a sleazeball with all of his charisma. Carson and Ryan have the bromance, but then Carson does also get some romance with the DA Jean. I think her name was Jean, right? And I love that so much. I was so glad that we finally like Carson was kind of able to not move on from his wife, but you know what I mean? Like he said, find that there is a life, a life that could be good, even if though it's without his soulmate. Because he does tell Nancy that her mom really was his soulmate. But like, I love that.
That doesn't mean his life's over.
Exactly. But yes, we can. Oh, and so the season ends with they're gonna go on a weekend trip together, and I'm like, yes, please, thank you. It does. We'll get back to that in a different section. Okay, yes, you talk about the Georgia Nick because that's what I had next.
So, how long ago would you say was the start of season 1 in the timeline?
Oh, I'm so serious. I'm pretty sure the whole season takes place in 2 weeks. It's 2 or 3 weeks.
Season 1.
Oh,
Like from the end of season 3 to the beginning of the beginning of season 1 when the show started to the end of season 3, like 6 months? 4 months?
no. I think
No.
it's at least 6 months, if not a year.
It's not a year because we started in summer.
Oh yeah,
We started in summer and
that's
now
true.
we're in winter. Or where it's snowing anyway.
Are we in winter or spring?
It's snowing. So if we say it's, under a year that all of the shenanigans from season 1 till now, at the beginning of this year, 6 months, whatever this period is, George was still hooking up with Ryan. Nancy and Ned were dating.
Nick. I always want to call him Ned. It's Nick.
Nancy and Nick were dating.
Yes.
And then 3 months after that, roughly, don't know. Well, actually, yeah, within the first month or so of the period, George and Ryan break up. George tells him off for dating her when she was an underage teen. And then Nancy and Nick break up, and George and Nick get together. Also within this time period, after not very long of dating, but George gets a spirit caught inside of her so that she has a shortened lifespan, and so she and Nick are just trying to like rush things along and get together. And so then George proposes. You were right, I was wrong. Last season, where George has proposed to Nick, but Nick hadn't said Yeah, so they were not engaged at the end of last season. Early on in this season, Nick does this whole beautiful proposal in front of all of their friends and her sisters. It's so cute. He gives her a ring. He gets presents from her mom, who's in China. Like, it's this whole beautiful thing. Within season 3, which we just said was like about a 2-week period, they then are like, let's just get married. Like, why are we waiting? And in my mind, they've been dating for maximum 3 months.
Okay, this is what someone said. Sorry, I was looking at while you were talking about it. So they're saying that they think season 1 starts on like August 31st. I would agree, because it seems like the whole summer passed before that, and the whole summer is when Nancy and Nick are hooking up.
Yeah.
And then they believe Karen got arrested in about October, because when Nancy showed her the footage of confronting Dodge, she said, "You didn't realize there was a camera last month." And then that was part of the push before Carson's trial, which was like 2 days later, and included calling to the Aglaika. And then the first part of season 2 was the week they had before the Aglaika killed them. And they mentioned specifically that the night they beat the Aglaika was the 21st, which I agree with them. I would assume is October 21st, since it only has really been about 9 days since Karen was arrested. Then the last episode says that the 21st was a couple weeks ago. So I think the beginning of season 3 is a week into November. I think I would buy that timeline.
Okay. So yeah, so 6 months. So
yeah.
6 months. Yeah.
Well,
this is what I'm saying.
It's like
this is what I'm saying.
months.
The time, like, I know these characters, you know, these 18-year-olds are so mature and whatever. But like, and I know that they don't act weird around their exes, but it weirds me out every single time we see Ryan interacting with George or with Ned. And it's like, hey, 3 months ago, he and George were having an affair. Mm-hmm. He's done a lot of growth, but still, like, having this man as a volunteer around the community, around the children's center, having this dad, like, or having this guy learn, like, to be a dad. I love that for him. But he was hooking up with an underage teenage girl within the past year. I don't know when George's birthday is. And that was only like 4 months ago. So, like, I'm glad we're all over it. But, like, anytime he interacts with George, I'm like, you guys were hooking up 4 months ago. You were, like, her trauma response to not having a dad that, like, made her into this high school pariah.
And well, I don't think he was the first one. I don't think he was the first one she'd done that with. I think she'd...
Yeah.
But yeah.
But still.
In my brain, it's been at least a year. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I think it's just the actors all look older.
Well, it's not even that.
None of them
but
look
like
18.
The extreme character growth and all of the things that happen and develop, like, that kind of character growth doesn't just happen overnight. Like, that's something that takes time. In real life, it takes time for people to grow and to change, because you have habits. You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous to me.
So, Nancy or George and Ned, yes, they are like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get married. We're just gonna do it right now. And they rush to the courthouse and get a judge to agree to let them walk down the aisle that day. Does Maine not have wait 3 days? Does Maine not have you need witnesses for this wedding? I have a lot of questions. It's okay.
I just want to say, when I first saw that and we got to that moment, I was so pissed off. I was like, this is BS. George deserves so much better than this. You should have your friends there. She should have her sisters there. I was like, George deserves the white gown and flowers being thrown, and
Put that
I
boy
was
in a
pissed.
tuxedo.
Yes, I
Come
was
on.
peeved.
I want to see him dressed fancy.
And
He'll be
don't they
stunning.
need witnesses for that? I thought you need
That's what I'm saying.
a.
Like, I had a lot of
Continue.
questions because at least in Washington, you have to have turned in your marriage license, and there's a 3-day waiting period before the ceremony or the legal ceremony can actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I was like, no, they can just roll up at 4:57 when the court closes at 5, and the judge will be like, rock on. Anyway, so
That was strange.
George is just like, I want an aisle. And so they back up to the other end of the hallway. They're like, come on. And it's just the judge and Nick. And George is standing at the end of the hallway. No flowers, no nothing, just like in a sweatshirt. And it's just like, actually, no. And so she and Ned then have this whole conversation where it's just like, hey, the soul that was Odette, who was in my soul and shortening my lifespan, is gone. So there's no need to like rush. And so this is where they have the whole conversation about like, we're going to grow together. Like, we're going to, grow around each other. And they take the ring off and they decide, like, we don't need to be engaged right now. Like, I knew they were going to break up.
Wait, hold on. Isn't that where George says, I want you to keep the ring, right? Can you keep it for me? Is that when she says it? Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
But while they were engaged, there was this whole period of time where Nick was trying to like befriend her sisters.
Yeah.
And like trying to like be really nice to them and help them with homework. And they had never had like a stable male figure in the house. And so we're like really untrustworthy of him at first. And then he and George spent a lot of time being like, he will always be there for us. Like, you do not have to worry. He will always be there. And I was like, no, he will not. I know what you guys are doing and I don't trust you. And then I was right. And George had to tell her sisters that. Okay, sorry. So they agreed to not be engaged. And then they're kind of like trying to explain to their friends. They're like, oh, yeah, well, we're not engaged, but we are still together.
Then it's the truth potion.
There's clear, and then they fight, and there's, just a lot of stuff going on. But then there's the truth teller party where they do break up. And after that, George has to like talk to her sisters and be like, he's still gonna be part of our lives. He's still gonna be friends. And it's like, oof, girl.
They got so upset. I was so heartbroken.
I know. Also, so the main cast, like, they were in their mid-20s, so they aren't changing that much over the years. It's been 3 years since we were first introduced to George's little sisters, who are little. Like, they're probably like 7, 10, and 15 or something. And they're just growing up so fast because it's been, 3 or 4 years since we started shooting this show. And so they didn't bring on new little girls to take their spot. And so now all of the characters where, 4 months ago they looked their age and now just look so much older. And it's fun. They're great. I love having them involved, but it's just funny just because kids grow so fast.
Yes. So, yeah, by the end, they're broken up on semi-okay terms. Honestly, I don't really feel like they got to good terms because there was just too much going on. You know what I mean?
No, during the kind of tsunami piece, during the big flood, Ned was just running through the crowd, just crying out for George because he thought she was out there stuck somewhere. So, like, there is some feelings in there. But then looking at the tarot cards predictions where they do say, like, betrayed her true love and those kind of things. So I just think they'll get back together. It'll be fine. Like, things will work out.
But, like, seeing everything that happened with the ring, I just don't feel like they're on good terms. Like, it might not be bad, but it's not good.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get engaged anytime soon. But I also think that that original ring, I mean, for their relationship, kind of tainted. Like, I guess in some ways it could symbolize growth, that it's like, oh, okay, no, we did end up coming back together. But like, it makes sense that she'll get a better ring
I agree. I think
or a
it's more
different ring.
that they didn't have that conversation. And so she just has to go and suddenly see it in a
Yeah.
shop. Like, that's a really poopy way to find out. And that's more of what I mean. I think, yes, I agree with if they get married in the future, she should get a different ring. So Bess is single in the beginning of this season because Odette was like,
Single and so ready to mingle with anyone she walks by.
I wouldn't say she's ready to mingle. I would say she was masking the pain of not having Odette by having one night stands with ladies.
Which is the mingling part.
Well, mingling, I feel like when you say single and ready to mingle, I feel like that implies you're looking for a relationship.
I would say you're mingling with people at a bar or a party where you're just like, oh, hi. Oh, hello.
I guess I've only ever heard it used when people are looking for more than just a one night stand, like a date or something.
Mm.
And she just wanted the poo-tang, okay? She just was ready.
She was, yes.
Yeah, because, well, so Odette had said she was going to sleep. She wasn't going to keep trying to take over George's body. And then, and so she's kind of having this thing with Addie, who is, she's Native American. I don't remember what her tribe is. But she's Native American and working with the youth center because the youth center is on Native American tribal lands that are important to them. And there's all of this. And so her and Bess kind of get off on the wrong foot because Bess is looking to slay some cats. And Addie's like, I'm more dignified than that.
Well, more dignified. And she also just like saw Bess as just like a materialistic, like,
Yeah.
basic bee who,
Mm-hmm.
was like into shopping and like technology and whatever.
Yeah.
And Addie is just like she went on a walkabout to deal with her trauma that was like no phones or anything like, so she's just like very rooted and grounded and just like looking for something deep and meaningful, and Bess is just like, gross.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they're kind of having a thing. They're not quite serious, but they're a little more, not a little more serious, but they're trying to go out on like an actual date. But then there's this whole thing where they have to separate the souls of George and Odette, and they do it. And when they do it, in order for it to work, Odette has to crush the piece, or Bess has to crush the piece of rock with Odette's soul in it. So we say goodbye to Odette. And it makes me so sad. I loved Odette and George's body. Not that like I didn't want to get rid of George, but like it was,
Well, with the rate these seasons are going, we've got 20 more seasons before we'd hit 10 years of George's life.
that's
20?
so true.
Do I mean 20? No, I mean 40
200
or something.
True. And then that's kind of where Bess is able to be okay and move on. Yeah. And then her and Addie become more serious and are definitely, I think, very serious by the end of the season. Are there.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It was interesting because, like, we had Addie in several episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the last times we saw her, one of the main things she did was talk to Nick about trauma. She was like, oh, like, I had a cousin who committed suicide and I did a walkabout and got rid of like all my technology and whatever, and just like was with myself for 2 weeks or whatever it was. to like really kind of reground myself and heal. And she's like, how did you heal from your trauma? He was like, well, my mentor died, and then this other woman who was a mentor to me also died, and then I got in this tumultuous relationship with Nancy, and then I got in a tumultuous relationship with George, and then I bought several businesses. She was like, great. And which one of those helped you heal your trauma? And he was like,
none. Oh, what trauma? I don't have any trauma.
Yeah. But like one of the last times we saw Addie was at the truth-telling party where we learned that there was like a bunch of like ore or something really spooky scary, which ended up being like the seal to the underworld or whatever, behind the children's center. And Addie and her tribe knew about it. And so we like learned that she knew about it and that her tribe knew about it. And she like asked Bess a question at the very end while they were making out, like what Bess knew about it. And Bess was like, truly nothing. And she was like, okay. And then they kept making out. And I was like, okay, like what's going to happen there? And then we like basically didn't really see Addie again. Like we saw her for like bits and pieces in the children's center. So she was still around, but she didn't have any scenes that she was impactful to.
Yes. Okay. Does that cover all of the relationships before? Do we get everyone? I think so. Because Ryan doesn't have anybody. He's just living his best life in the bromance with Carson. Okay, so in the beginning of the season, Ace is still with Amanda. Amanda is off. What?
She's in like Spain or Italy or something.
Well, didn't she leave the last season to go on like a hiking or something?
The two of them, Ace and Amanda, went off together to do this mountain trip. But then she came back and she like went to Italy for a while, and Ace like decided not to go with her. So she's been off in Europe.
Regardless,
she goes back for one episode.
Amanda is gone, and so while Amanda's gone, Ace is like, I'll help Amanda's dad, who's been convicted before for, I think it was just all of the theft. I don't know if it was anything else. And he's doing bad stuff. I just know he's doing bad stuff, and Ace becomes kind of like an accomplice. And then he has to give Amanda's dad over, and he does it essentially behind Amanda's back. So the episode she comes back for, he's like, we have to find your dad because her dad's on the run again, so that I'm not convicted because I was not a part of this. Like, I didn't do any of this because someone was murdered, I think, and he's anyways. And so Amanda's like, I'm not going to turn him in, or I can't turn him in, and all of that. So Ace goes with or follows Amanda when she goes to see her dad, and he lets the cops know, or the cops are following him or whatever, and the cops come and get her dad. And so that ends their relationship because Amanda's like, I can't believe you did that. And I was like, good riddance.
I wasn't mad. Again, we all knew she was like a block between so that Nancy and Ace couldn't get together.
Yep. Yeah.
That was her character. Side note.
Yes.
Their last name is Bobbsey, right?
Yeah, it's the Bobbseys.
So, like the Bobbsey twins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that leads us.
Picked up on them being the Bobbsey twins before, which I think is a really fun little shout out.
I thought we talked about that last season.
Did we?
Yes, I kept trying to get through to you that Amanda and Gil were twins. And you were like, what? I remember how you didn't even remember their names. You were like,
well, that's very true. Okay. Do I know the name of the FBI profiler.
No, it's Agent
Not for
Park.
the first 10 episodes. Agent Park. Do we know his
Agent
first name?
Park. I'm pretty sure they just call him Agent Park. Anyways, that leads us to Nace. Hashtag Nace forever. I season 4, Ace better get hit. Okay, first of all, I feel so sad that Ace thinks Nancy would be ashamed to be with him because he doesn't have his crap together and he's like living with friends and stuff. Because and I'm like, makes me so sad. But I'm like, season 4, Ace, you're smart.
It's
I
because
know
he
you're
puts her on a
smart.
pedestal.
He does.
He thinks she is the best thing that he's ever seen in his entire life. And so he's just like, why would she want to be with me, a dishwasher who lives with his parents?
Bless him. Well, no, at that point, he's not living with his parents. He's been couch surfing.
Well, at the beginning, I mean, he has been living with his
But
parents.
at the beginning, he's not really thinking that because he's still with Amanda. It's not until that whole shit goes down because when they arrest Amanda's dad and get the other guy, his mom overhears him talking to his dad about the secret son, and his dad just blows up and kicks him out of the house.
I could not believe that.
I couldn't either. I was really mad at his dad.
That was a really upsetting conversation because his dad was just like, get out, you cannot come back here, don't tell my secrets, blah. Like his dad, that was wild. And then his dad never apologized for that. He came back and he was just like, oh, your mom really wants you to come to this thing, your mom wants you to come home, your mom wants to do all of this. And I was like, get out of here. It's not his mom's fault that he's not home. And his dad was just like calling him out and being like, why do you still rely on us? Like, you shouldn't. Anyway, just acting like either he was ungrateful or he was mooching off of them. And anyway, and so I think it was just like touching on a lot of Ace's insecurities.
Yeah, it was awful. Okay, so like we said, Temper puts a curse on them when they killed her. If Nancy ever acts on her feelings for Ace, he'll die. And so at the end, towards the way end of the episode, Nancy goes over to see him, and they almost have a moment. They're about to kiss, and she's like, the barometer cracks, which is what happened in her dreamscape. She's like, I should have never come. And she just stab to Ace. It's just like, there's nothing between them. There never would be. I don't have any of those feelings that you have for me. And just, oh my Lanta, my heart. It's just like, look into my eyes and what do you see? Or something like that. And just walks out and you're like.
And it was horrifying because he was just like, I got a job at the morgue. I just got an apartment below Nick's and now I like have my own place and I have a real job. So now like we can be together.
He literally airs his whole insecurities about he wasn't good enough until now. He could maybe. And she's be like,
that was not, that's nothing to do with anything.
Shot through the heart and you're to blame.
So Nancy's just having a meltdown, obviously, because she has all of these feelings.
So when that happened, that towards the end of that, when I first watched this episode, I was like, season 4, Ace he's gotta know what's up. Like, he knows Nancy. Please tell me he can put 2 and 2 together. Like, he knows she has feelings for him. What?
Side question. Yes. Is there anything in the curse that says Nancy cannot tell him that there's a curse?
I don't think.
It's just if she makes her move or like acts on her feelings.
Yeah.
Why cannot she just tell him or tell Ned, or somebody at best, the Platanker? Why can't she tell somebody else to tell Ace that like, hey, there was a curse that he'll die if he and Nancy get together?
Honestly, that was my whole thought process too, is I didn't understand why she felt like she had to take it on all by herself. And she does have...
Other than she's Nancy and that's what she does in literally every situation.
Yeah. I was proud of her. So she does talk to Carson about it. She opens up to Carson. They have that whole wholesome conversation. He's like, it is possible to live without a soulmate, and maybe you get more than one. You control your fate. I was kind of like, this is a little soon to say maybe you get more than one when she didn't even get to be with her first soulmate. Like, at least you were with your first soulmate, and then.
I think
But
yes, but also she's 18.
well, she definitely needed the pep talk.
And 18-year-olds have strong feelings about somebody who maybe considered their true first love.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say she loved Nick?
Mm-mm. Okay, wait, let me amend that. I think to the extent of what she was capable of at the time, she loved him. But I think ultimately it's more of a friendship love for her. Like I think it was lust, and he was a coping mechanism, to be honest, in the summer. I think that's what he was, and to the extent she was capable of, she felt love. But ultimately it was just friendship love. With Ace, like the profiler said, they started as friends. Like, they were really good friends. It was all organic. He was able to go through all of her barriers without the pressure of romance or any of that. So I think
and just be like her number one fan and her supporter.
Yes. Yeah, he's the one who she can always count on to have her back no matter what. Like, she has
now,
him.
Is that because he's in love with her and therefore is just like, sure, whatever she wants?
No, because he had it before he had those feelings for her. He was always for her from season 1, to be honest. And before, I feel like
yes, but did he have feelings for her?
I don't think so in season 1, and I don't even think in season 2 until maybe towards the end. And he definitely wasn't even realizing it till season 3. But I would say
accepting that that's how he felt.
Yeah, I would say no for sure season 1, and not in the beginning of season 2, which is why he was able to get with Amanda. I mean, obviously they also put her as a block, but I think that's also why he was able to have feelings for Amanda.
Hold on.
I think he always has Nancy's back because he truly believes in her, in the kind of person she is, and in what she's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he would not be afraid to tell her if he thought she was wrong.
Yeah.
But I just think they have a very pure bond. So I think how it went to be, even though they are so young, I would say that could be true love. They could be soulmates.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because it was never really lust. It was, go ahead. No, you go. Sorry.
I think I'm just saying that, yes, do I think he is one of her soulmates? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just saying from a parent's perspective, being like, hey, there might be more people out there than just the people you know at age 18.
Yeah.
I think that's a good move to be like, hey, kiddo, if it doesn't work out with them, you're 18. There's so much left of life to like.
Oh, I agreed with his advice. It just was like, it felt like such a whiplash. Like, she didn't really have any time to grieve any of it or anything. Like, it was just like, well, we're moving on. You got this, champ.
But she was asking. Like, she asked him, like, he's going on dates with this person after mom died, and mom was your soulmate, so how are you moving on?
Well, yeah, but right, and he said it is possible to live without a soulmate.
Yeah.
Right, that part made sense. And then it was like a couple sentences later where he suddenly was like, and maybe you get more than one. But he was saying that he never said he thought Jean was a soulmate of his. Just that
Right.
it was possible to live without his and still be happy with someone who isn't necessarily his soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was still really sad, so he said to her, maybe you get more than one.
Poor Nancy.
I was sad. Okay. Just to recap how it ended, where we leave everybody at the end of season 3. George is going to try law. I think she still owns the claw. They don't really address any of that, to be honest. So, unsure. Nick stays in town for a while longer, like you're saying, because his parents have come to visit. And he also sells the ring George asked him to keep to be able to fix where the veil is at the youth center. And like you said, also Ace got a job at the morgue, and he is in an apartment under Nick. Bess decided to accept and become the keeper of the historical society. We didn't really address the whole Hannah Gruen thing, but basically she disappeared into this like parallel reality where she could see what was going on but couldn't do anything. Ace
I knew
joins
there was
her.
something up with her because
I
everyone
know,
kept
right?
being like, "Oh, Hannah's gone. I don't know. Bess is taking over this thing." I was like, "Where did Hannah go?
Right.
Come on, guys, put it together."
Ace ends up there. They save them. Hannah's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. This is making me question everything. I'm questioning even being a keeper and listening to what they said because she's pretty much the reason the Copperhead came out and was able to start doing all of that killing and stuff. And she was questioning life. So she's like, I gotta go. Peace. I'm handing in my resignation and giving my suggestion for succession. They send the letter to Bess. Bess is like, heck yes. Nancy got Icarus Manor in Temperance's will, and she turned it into Nancy Drew's investigations. Low key, I was like, who wants to work in there though? Because that place is creepy, but pop off,
I'd
queen.
do it. I think they should move the historical society to Icarus, and
I would
then
agree.
it
I would
can
agree with that.
like
That'd be
be
so
there
cool.
with Nancy,
Yeah,
and
that'd be
it's
cool.
just like, "Oh, come for the paranormal and get a paranormal detective on the way."
True, true. We last see Ryan. He's in trouble with some bad people, probably. We see him with the couple, and they're like, take us to the historical society owner. And then Carson is going on a weekend trip with the DA. And then the final scene, someone calls Nancy and they're like, I saw a baby girl. Can you come to the cemetery at 10 p.m.? And she's like,
It's her
a
first call
mystery?
as Nancy Drew Investigations.
Yeah. So she's like, of course I'll be there. See you then. She doesn't. None of that happened like that, but that's how it went.
It's the vibe. It's the vibe, okay?
It is. It is. And so she gets there and she finds that all of the graves have been dug up and the bodies are missing. And you're like, okay,
Oh no.
great. Love that. Yeah, so guesses for season 4, like I was saying, is I think it's going to center around the road back. They were kind of put on the hiatus. I think that's what the couple is. We're bringing that back. Obviously, we're going to get to Everett's trial because we kind of slowly talk little bits and pieces throughout the season about working on it and it's coming up. And in that case, I think Detective Tamura is going to come back because Agent Park is leaving now that the Frozen Heart case has been solved. He was just like a coming in because we
He's a
didn't have Detective.
profiler specialist who was
Well,
a
they didn't have
specialist on the
Detective
Frozen
Tamura.
Hearts killer.
Right, but part of it was that they didn't have Detective Tamir. They just had their normal police officers, so they sent someone in to come and help. And yes, he was like what you said. So now that he's gone, I feel like Detective Tamura is going to come back, especially if we're going to start focusing more on the Everett's trial, which also leads me to say what you said for one of your guesses for season 3 is I think we're going to get back more into Nancy being the Hudson, figuring that out, figuring out the Empire, taking it all down. F you, Everett.
And I think George being into law,
Oh,
I think
huge.
she'll really shine
Hmm.
during that case because
Yeah.
she's going to be mentored. She's getting mentored by the judge and obviously working closely with Carson and doing all of that. So, yeah, so I think George is really going to shine. Bess is going to be dealing with the road back and whatever shenanigans are going on around there,
Causing
um,
more havoc
causing
unintentionally.
more havoc. Yeah. Ned, um, I
I
think
feel like
Ned
he's
and
going to be
George are going to
gone
work.
for the beginning of the season. And then he's going to have to get pulled back for something. And then they've maybe been able to grow apart, like while they're apart. And then it will be possible for them to come together. What do you
Mm.
think is going to happen for them?
Again, it's just if they have a time jump. Because remember, like, the last thing we see is, or one of the last things we see is Ryan careening down a road with the angry hatchet couple. So
That's true.
I don't think there's going to be a jump between the end of season 3 and the beginning of season 4. Maybe Nancy solves a couple things, or like nothing really happens with the graves or whatever, or we just say, or maybe we, yeah, I think we're gonna go directly in, and then maybe season or episode 2 or 3 there will be like a time jump, and Nancy's like inundated with calls for her investigative agency, whatever.
Yeah, I
But
think we're going to go right into it too, based off of how the other seasons would go. It was more of a, I just feel like for them to actually come together, he has to go home and face Florida and heal with that. I
but
just
I
think he
think
has to do that.
his parents are here, and I think it's
But they've been there before. It's not his parents. He talked about it in the episode with that girl who came, is that he hasn't been able to go to Florida because he's so ashamed and all of that. So I feel like he
yeah.
needs to face that. Like he has to go back, even if it's for a short period of time, and face that. And
Yeah, but I think he said his parents are going to be up for
a month.
a month.
It was a month,
Yeah,
yeah.
so unless we have a big time jump,
Yeah.
and
I don't
so
know.
and maybe it'll be something where like we spend 3 weeks in the season in like a bunch of episodes, and then in like the second to last episode, then there's a time jump, and Ned goes away for that. Like we
Right.
wait out the month that his parents are here, and then when Ned leaves, then we do a time jump to when he's coming back, and this is when he like comes in or is just like, George, like, I'm coming back to town, do you want to get coffee or something like that?
Yes. Do we know, is season 4 the last season? Do we know how many more it is the last season? Confirmed?
Sure is.
Sad.
Confirmed.
Oh, you know what? Yes, you're right. All right, then I'm gonna say, I think, Bess and Addie are endgame. I don't feel like we can introduce another girl for her, and I feel like she should be able to have someone in the end. What? You can respond.
Yes. In that case, I think we'll have some more involvement with Addie's tribe,
Mm-hmm.
because um and some of their kind of rituals, histories, like what they know about a variety of things. Because one of the things, there are weapons that are made of that special ore.
Yeah.
So I feel like the road back would be interested in those, and then her tribe is going to be like keeping them safe.
I think they're endgame, or Bess ends up as a single bad bitch. I don't think there's anyone else that's suddenly going to show up for her. I think those are her two options, to be honest. I think we're either going to end with, like, for sure, George and Nick are back together, or it ends on they're going to try it and see what happens. And so you get the hope that they're there. Um, I'll be really disappointed if it doesn't end with Nancy and Ace together.
They could not give us that.
Yeah, like it's the ending. Nancy has to have. I'm sorry, Nancy has to have a happy ending. You just can't.
Kennedy,
do
we're
that.
talking directly to you. Please.
Please.
Please. Can't take it.
I hope Carson and the DA are still together at the end.
Eh.
More
I'm
of
pretty
his,
lukewarm on her.
it's not really her. It's more of, I just want Carson to be happy. I want him to have not completion, but just, you know, something. It's been a long, maybe it hasn't been a long time since Nancy's mom died. That's really confusing, honestly, with how their timeline works.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I started thinking about it specifically because of Ryan and George interacting, and like, because at the end of season 1, she was telling him, like, hey, you really messed up things
Yeah,
in my
you fucked
life.
me
I
up.
was really messed up. Like, that was I cannot believe you were hooking up with a 17-year-old. Like, what is wrong with you? Or like having an affair with a 17-year-old, no less. And that was the end of season 1. That was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
And now
Weird.
she's engaged and now not engaged, and he's her friend's dad. And anyway,
I feel like Ryan is still going to be single. We're still going to have the bromance, rocking hard, taking care of Nancy. I feel like he could get his shit together and maybe he moves out of the house. But honestly, I wouldn't be upset if they just
yes.
stayed together because I feel like they're so wholesome.
Well, and see,
Him and
that's why
Carson.
I'm not sure if Carson will stay with the DA or if he and Ryan are, because like he's not sleeping on their couch, but like,
He has a room, I think.
yeah.
You know what? Let's get rid of the DA and just have the bromance. I would actually be
Thank
so
you.
okay with that, to be honest. I think I would be more okay with that than the DA because I feel like that might be more fulfilling for Carson. But go ahead.
I had a thought. I think because she'll be involved in the Everett trial, right?
I don't think so. She's the DA. I think Everett has his own.
But she's a prosecutor.
Well, she's a defense attorney. So if she was working for anybody, it would be Everett. But Everett, I think, already has his own team. It's Carson who's a prosecutor.
Carson was. Oh, and he also does pro bono defense because all of his people are like, he's a defense
You know
lawyer.
what? Now I don't know. Now I'm confused. You know what? I don't know. But I don't think she's a part of it. Or if she is, she's going to get pulled into it because up until now, she hasn't been a part of it. That could break up the relationship because they'd be going
That's where
against
I
each
was
other.
going with that.
Yeah, because that one case was like she was taking
Well,
stuff way too personally.
and she was just like so confident in her own direction, even though she was wrong. And she was doing her job
Yeah.
to be like, hey, this is what I'm arguing. Like she was winning, she was doing great at her debate, and that's again what she is being paid to do. So I cannot hold that against her. But
It was more
yeah.
of like the conversation before it where they couldn't go on the vacation. And she's like, can you just accept that he's guilty? And he's like, except he's not. You don't have evidence to prove without a doubt that he did it. So why don't you just accept um basically dropping the charge from what it was to a lesser charge so he would not be punished as harshly? And
Yeah.
she's
No,
like,
that
no.
conversation in the kitchen,
Yeah.
yeah, where they
And
were arguing the case, but like not in front of a judge. But
yeah,
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 she was
in the
just being
kitchen.
like,
And that's where she
where
was
she,
all of a sudden like, she took it all personally. Once they got in the courtroom, like, as much as she was doing her job, she was taking everything Carson did personally, I felt. And it was
yeah,
like, just accept he's a piece of shit. I mean, that's literally what it felt like she was saying.
Yeah.
And bless
It's just
Nick.
like, you can't trust, like,
yeah,
you're like, you have to trust your gut or whatever. Like, yeah. No, she was very, very convinced that this kid was bad. I mean, everyone was convinced the kid was bad for truly no reason.
all
But
because
yeah, so
one
I really
time,
didn't like her. I really did not like her in that scene. And I also thought it was really inappropriate that she and Carson were having a relationship and also being in a courtroom together. I
yeah,
thought that was totally a conflict. I could not believe that the judge was like, I'll allow this to like continue to happen. But I guess the defendant could bring on any legal aid that they wanted.
mm-hmm.
So, but I think DA Jean should have excused herself from it
Her
due
sole
to a conflict of
reasoning
interest.
was that because one time when she gave someone a second chance and then he went and killed his wife, that we can suddenly give nobody a second
Second
chance
chances.
without
That was
undeniable
so
proof.
wild.
I was like, okay. And then it turned out that he didn't do it and the guard was just a nincompoop. The outcome
Literally,
was he was too blind to have actually identified the kid as the one who stole the laptop and beat up a person, killed a person. I think it was beat up.
beat up because
Yeah.
the guy came out of the coma like out a couple hours after the court case was decided and was like, yeah, it wasn't him.
Yeah.
I was like, how quickly did we rush this court case? Like, when did this happen? These kind of court cases take months to get through typically. But I guess in a small town, I don't know.
I mean, depending on how badly he was beat, he could have been in a coma for months. It really depends. But yeah, it was what it was. It was wild. So you're right. Ship the bromance.
Yes. I think, yeah, the bromance, again, training
George. Oh, no?
training Ryan to be like a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he was so cute when the kids at the
youth
center liked him because he's never had the chance to be a dad. And he just like is so sad about that, even though he's what, 36?
Yeah.
You can still get married and be a dad. Or you can anyway.
Any other predictions?
At this point, no, they really didn't give us a lot to go on.
It has to be the
tied
road
up
back.
A lot of loose yeah.
Because that's just how you close it out. If season 4 is the end, that's what you have to do. You cannot just introduce something else.
Especially because the road back started with that group of guys who were staying in Icarus Hall. And in Icarus Hall is where there was that big murder scene where they all but 2 of them died, and then the 2 that survived ran off to create the road back. But they were all kind of Knights Templaring around and were protecting their ore and whatever. But like all of that was happening in Icarus Hall. And Nancy now
has Icarus Hall.
Has her office and owns Icarus Hall. So I just think she's just going to find stuff in there.
Agreed. All right. In that case, we're going to wrap it up. Unfortunately, today we aren't able to do a female developer spotlight because we're condensing season 4 into 1 episode instead of 2 episodes like we've done in the past. So just as a reminder to all of you, if you have a developer, game, or side quest you want us to talk about, or any local anonymous gossip you simply must tell someone, please, please, please let us know on Twitter at nosidequests. At nosidequests, or email us at nosidequests@gmail.com. And if you'd like to see our lovely faces during the podcast, we post each episode with video to our I Don't Believe in SideQuest YouTube channel. You can find me, Gabe, at nenyaadamas on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. And you can find my lovely co-host, Lauren, at sweetie_patat on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Sweetie, I hope you have, or Lauren, Oh my gosh. I hope you have a
You
great
did it right the
time
first time.
in your outing after we record. So I hope you have a lovely time. We will see you guys for season 2. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this journey. It's a crazy feeling wrapping up season 1. It's crazy that it'll be a year since we first started the podcast. And I want to thank you, Lauren, for joining me on this crazy adventure, because we certainly have had ups and downs and all arounds, and I really am so glad you said yes when I was like, yeah, hey, you want to do a podcast?
I said yes.
She said yes. So thank you. Thank you. If you don't have anything to say, then we will see you guys.
I love you.
I love you too. I love you too.
Bye, guys.
Bye. We'll see you for season 2.